TPE Network. Fun yet informative podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Mouse House Plus, episode 53. I'm Hank.
And I'm John.
And we're your hosts covering every episode of Moon Knight. So this week, it is episode 5 of season 1, Asylum. John, let's get right to it.
All right, let's do it.
We hear a boy screaming for help, and then everyone is screaming. I thought that was a good transition.
Yep.
And we're in Chicago, Illinois. That's where the mental institution Asylum is at. And we have Dr. Harrow talking to Marc, trying to convince him of what's real. Did you feel like this was just some game at that moment?
I did. I actually was real curious of where this set is, if that's a real thing, because that place actually kind of looked pretty cool. But I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, this is a really crappy, afterlife, if that's what he's stuck in. But are we to believe that the entire... I think that's what we were supposed to try to believe, is that the entire thing was in his head.
Yes, and I was wondering where they were going to spin this, as the episode went on. Mm-hmm. But now it's kind of clear how things are going to play out. But
well, I could tell you where I thought it was going to spin, but I'll wait until a little bit later.
Okay. The hippo is the key. I was like, what? The hippo's the key. And then it's another freak out time. But Marc and Steven are talking to what I quoted as the hungry, hungry hippo, because I had that game as a kid. I'm sorry. Yep. It's just too easy. Low hanging fruit.
I had it too.
That game was amazing, dude.
Well, especially when you're sitting there you're like, we're gonna play two sides. I get these two, and you get these two, and you're like this the entire time, you're slapping it.
Cheating. I used to cheat.
There's like balls flying all over the place.
Tilt the board a little bit. Winner. Yep. All right, she tells them that they are dead. They're in the realm of the Duat. And I was like, what the heck? And they said her name, but man, I had a hard time trying to pronounce some of these weird names. Taweret or something. Taweret.
Yeah, yes. I'd say Taweret is probably the easiest way to say it.
Oh, my goodness. So since it's so hard to understand, they make it something that their mind can understand. That's what Dr. Harrow's trying to convince them, you're doing this because of this, you're thinking of this because of that. And I was like, well, okay, maybe that's true, or maybe he's just trying to suck you in further and further and further. Because I kept thinking that maybe he's elsewhere and this is just some game to get something.
Yeah, and I agree, and it's especially since how stressed he is during this entire thing, and then how he's like, of course, yes, I'm the bad guy, right? And just kind of playing up, and it definitely makes you sit here and say, yeah, is he playing games with them? But I mean, maybe it's because that since he is a oh man, I forgot what they're called. Not Aqualite. What is he?
Avatar.
Sorry, he's an avatar of the of that god and she deals with death. Maybe he has a window in. That's what I was kind of thinking, and that he was just toying with him a little bit more afterwards. But I mean, I don't know. It took me a while to figure out where we're going with this.
Good one. Not bad. Marc opens a door, and they're on a ship heading to the field of reeds. He's like, ah! I mean, there were so many freak out moments in this episode. It was really fun.
Yeah, that was that's some pretty good CGI for what they were doing there. The just traveling along, and then Marc is like, I don't want to go to any reeds or the afterlife or this place or that place. And I was like, right. All right. It's like, oh, what we do? We kill the hippo and we turn it around. And I was like,
we turn the ship around.
Yeah, I'm like,
give me a cord.
We should be able to do it.
He was like, give me a cord or something. I was like, whoa, dude, whoa, too soon. Now, she just pops into their chests and just pulls their hearts out, and she's going to weigh their hearts, but the scale won't balance. And we get a lot of that throughout this whole series, that the scale just never wants to balance for this character.
My favorite was when she was like, "Oh, I was afraid that your chest would just explode." So,
So their hearts aren't full. They have to balance their scales before it's too late, because if they don't, they get taken
thrown
out.
overboard.
That's horrible. Walk the plank.
Yeah, I mean, especially since we see what happens later on.
So they see memories in the rooms. And then we hear the boys screaming for help again. And then we go into that dead body room with a scale. And Mark killed all these people. And he's remembering like what city or country he was in. And the scale starts slowing down. What did you think about this whole scenario?
I mean, I did like the fact that it just showed that he wasn't just some ruthless killer, because whenever like Steven is like turning around telling me, he's like, "You remember all their names?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna kill someone. You remember who, where or who they are or what was going on with it." So, I mean, I appreciate that it made him sound more of an actual anti-hero, hero-ish, rather than just some just mercenary going around killing people, which basically helps shut Steven up, because Steven's like, oh, okay, he has a little bit more respect for him in regards to, because he just thinks he's running around just killing people willy-nilly.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yeah.
Then they see the boy, and Mark tries to stop Steven from following him, but Steven locks Mark out, and we find out this is Randall. He's Mark's brother. And he drew a fish with one fin. Did it really start to take shape once you saw that portion?
No, what really started to take shape in my head was, I'm getting my flashback episode. And then no, don't give me the award. No, don't do that, because then it didn't do what I wanted it to do. It went different flashbacks, not the flashbacks that I wanted. And so, I mean, I know, because I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm like, Hank's getting exactly what he wants. I'm not getting what I want, but I know Hank's getting what he wants out of this. So,
yes. Oh, darn it! You put the pause on the applause.
No, because I don't deserve the applause for. I still haven't gotten what I wanted.
They're
I actually
playing.
thought that we were going to take a moment where we're going to step through a door where we're going to see all the stuff where, like, he ends up with a broken jaw and stuff. Because as soon as we went through that door and we were in that past, I'm like, oh, we're now going to see it. It makes perfect sense. So I'm going to get my episode. And then as the rest of the episode unfolds, we're like, okay, we're definitely not going in that direction. Right. And now I'm bummed because I'm not going to get my way. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No problem. They're playing adventurers, and we kind of get that call out of that what was that movie, that cheesy movie that they were talking about in another episode.
All right, let me see. I've got that up here on my screen. That movie is Tomb Busters.
Yeah, that seems like a legit movie. Tomb Busters.
Mm-hmm.
So Steven is trying to stop them, because Steven is Steven. Steven would be like the dad that would wrap the kids in bubble wrap before they go out and play.
Yeah.
So he is trying to stop them, and the water is rising fast when they go into that cave system or whatnot. And Mark sees his mom, and I was just like, because we kind of infer what has happened as we hear the screaming and the water's rising too fast and all that. So we kind of get a sense of this. And Mark sees his mom. Then the funeral, when Mark enters, the mom blames him, and she doesn't celebrate Mark's birthdays. And she's drunk, accusing him that he did that on purpose because he's jealous and all this stuff. And Steven goes to a room, but Mark pulls him out. I kind of just wanted to unpack this. This really hit me hard. I do want to share something personal. I'm not, then I won't linger on it, but I do want to share something personal. When my dad was a little boy, he had this similar situation transpire. So him and his brothers go out swimming. They get entangled in fishing line and such, and he loses some of his brothers. He can't save everybody. He saves some, can't save the other. So this hit me like a ton of bricks when I was watching this. I was like, oh my gosh, because you can't understand what somebody's carrying after that. Any thoughts, John?
I was more or less trying to figure out why, there's a cave on their property. It's so close to them. So I was thinking of more of the statistic. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I watched through this entire episode, and the gravity of everything that was going on there didn't hit me until afterwards, because the analytical part of my brain was just looking at all the other things that were going on there, and I'm like, okay, well, who's letting their cave let their kid go in the cave? Why aren't the kids even paying attention to the water in the first? I mean, if there's water going in, why would you hey, let's keep going in?
Right.
And then on top of that, it's. I mean, they were told not. I don't know. It's just one of those it was a little bit hard to believe that the scenario could be set up that way. Now, I'm not saying that if all that existed, it couldn't end that way. It absolutely could happen in that way. But I'm just thinking oh, they're gonna run off, and you'd be like, yeah, stay away from the cave. Oh yeah, it's supposed to rain today. Stay away from the cave.
Right. Or just stay away from there. Period.
Yeah.
So that was really wild. Now to the desert, where we finally get the story of Leyla'S dad and Marc's deal. Khonshu talks to a dying Marc Spectre who is set to blow his brains out, and they make their deal. Was this underwhelming or on par with what you thought?
It was on par. Although I feel that this temple should have maybe come up. I know we see the temple in the credits, but I feel that this temple should have maybe come up a little bit earlier. So when we saw it, we would have been known exactly what it is. I mean, and we were already kind of clued in because you and I are on the already jumping ahead in regards to what we think is about going to happen. But I kind of wish we had a little bit more insight on this temple.
Most certainly. Yeah, I agree with you. Just then, unbalanced souls are dropping in, and they're going back to the living. Marc and Steven are trying to get back to the living, obviously. They have to get the scales balanced still, though. Marc doesn't want Steven to go in. There's one specific room that he doesn't want him to go in, and he has a major malfunction when that is about to transpire. And Dr. Harrow says Marc has been doing a good job peering inward. Then, transported into that room, a young Marc turns into Steven. When danger is near, Steven Grant has no fear. What did you think about that?
It threw me for a loop because I actually was thinking that this other personality was in reality like his dead brother, I thought they were kind of possessing the same body. Somehow that was part of the deal that Khonshu was going to have done, was that, guess what? You have to deal with, with this. And that is not the direction that it happened. I didn't actually believe that we were going to see real trauma and what it could do to the psyche, the human psyche, and watch him basically just break like that. So when he just automatically turned and flipped into Steven, I was a little shocked because that is not what I thought was what the consciousness of Steven was.
Right. And then, can you help me understand this? His mom comes in and beats the snot out of him. So why is Steven always calling mom? I mean, wouldn't he still have been Steven when the beating was transpiring? Or is this a push forward?
I agree with you because I saw the exact same thing, because what happens is Steven was I don't remember. He's I don't remember this part. And then he was but I remember this part. But then he got pulled out before we got to see what transpired, which we knew what would transpire. But he didn't reflect stating that he remembered that. He was actually more wait, what's going on? I don't remember this. So I mean, maybe. And that's the first time that this consciousness pops up. So maybe think of it as a new, a birth of a character where it's not going to necessarily, everything's going to click and fall into place. But as he was outlined as being like the comfort blanket or the way that he can deal with like really hard issues is again, he's calm and apparently has to have a British accent, and he just ends up being this mellow person. And I agree. Why doesn't he remember, this moment when his mom comes in, and why is he tuned it out? But if we were to believe that, okay, he just doesn't remember this one event, then he is, the good son. He is, calls his mom every single day to make sure, let her know what's going on, which, I mean, we knew from the get-go that something was up with that because he was only leaving messages on the answering machine.
Yep.
So why would he continue to do that? Because as far as he was concerned, his mother was still alive, and that none of the events that happened to Marc ever happened to him. So why would he even know?
That's the only perplexing thing that I don't feel like they did a good job of sorting out in this particular episode, but maybe we'll get something else. Who knows? So that's when we know Steven was made up this entire time, just another persona of the same person.
Yep.
Then we find out that his mom is dead, and Steven is in Dr. Harrell's office again, and he's like, you have that Ned Flanders look. That was good.
Yeah, nice call out to that.
Yes. And Dr. Harrell triggers Steven, and he hands him a phone, but Steven says, my mom is dead. It was crazy how he was like, oh, get her phone number. Okay, we're going to call her up. And he's like, don't do that. Don't do it. He's freaking out, man. It was really well acted by both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, that's nonsense. No one's ever going to connect someone that quickly. Oh, we know where the number is. It's right there. And then she's automatically going to answer. I'm like, come on. I'm like, you got to know that that's a ploy right from the get-go. I mean, I feel that there's somebody sitting at the operation station being like, all right, we'll go get that, our actor who's, over in the other room. Tell him that he's playing this mom today. Yeah. And, they just call that room.
Yep.
So, but I mean, they didn't even go that far. But this was a good breakthrough because this was the Steven persona, acknowledging the death of his mom, which he's also acknowledging the fact that he is not the true possessor of the body.
Right. Yes. So we are transported to the funeral with a drunk Marc outside. Then grief-stricken Marc turns into Steven. Did you expect him to turn into Steven then?
No, I actually thought it was going to be Lockley. I thought that's when we're going to see the third persona, and then all of a sudden the guys who are watching are going to be like, who's that?
Who's this one?
And see, because, okay, so here's how it played out in my head, because it was pretty quick. They would do that, and then all of a sudden it would be like, wait a second, wasn't there another coffin? And then they would both run down and find the other coffin, and open that up, and
balance
they were like,
the heart.
And see, I hope someone from Disney is listening, because, I mean, what did I just say? It was only like maybe 1 or 2 minutes of screen time, although then you'd have to work in another character, but whatever.
Right. And he immediately gets killed off. That'd have been great. Yep. Hey, there's 3 of us. Yeah. Okay, there's 2 of us again.
Yes.
Steven consoles Marc as the ship stops. They are still unbalanced as the souls from the Duat come to claim them. Steven steers the ship poorly to the rescue. He was wheeling and dealing until he falls overboard.
Well, I mean, but he didn't fall. He jumped saving Marc.
Yeah, whatever.
He plowed into a sand monster to get him off of Marc.
And then turns into a statue of sorts.
A sand statue.
As the scales balance. Man, that was heavy. That was a heavy episode, man. Yeah. Not gonna lie to you. There was a lot of gut punches in this one. Do you want to dole out ratings?
Yes. I liked the episode. It wasn't what I typically grade on, because I like stuff that's got, I'm excited, like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? But the depth of this, and the fact that Disney went there. Disney went to, child abuse and did not hold back any punches. Just completely just knocked it out. And then you get to see Oscar Isaac playing every single emotional role you could ask for in one episode against himself, which by the way, I mean, because you got one of them that's mad, and the other one that's upset, then he's happy, and the other one's just, worried. And I mean, he's, doing all of this had to been, just shows how good of an actor he is. I'm going to give this an 8. Because it did do some of what I wanted to be done in the second episode, but at the same time, it really laid out how deep they're trying to get a message across.
I liked it a little bit better than you did. It just really resonated with me on a personal level. It's a type of episode that I don't want to see very often, because it's just too on the nose, too heavy. But I thought the acting in this episode and just the mind play was phenomenal. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree with you. That it just was. And you have to think, we have now watched an episode that's been all over the place, and it is one of the first series where we have barely even seen Moon Knight in the darn series. He's been in for like a total of maybe 5 minutes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He was more in the first episode than in any of the most of the others,
The most we've seen him do was when he was running on that rooftop. Seriously, that's the most we've seen him do. He was in this episode transforming into him, but besides that, I mean, we're watching this and we're going on this crazy emotional ride, and it's not even for the superhero, it's for the human being that is, inside the suit.
All right. Crazy. Well, we got a couple pieces of feedback. Would you like to get into those?
Yes.
Hi, Hank and John. Was this John's backstory episode? Sorry. This is from Elizabeth. John, you kind of touched on it earlier, not so much.
I mean, it had the opportunity to do what I wanted to do, but you know what? They decided to go down another route, and I'm okay with that.
Oh.
If it'd been a longer episode, probably maybe a 50-minute episode, then I think that they could have probably touched on some of those things, because it would have been, think about it this way, could have been like, Stephen run away from Marc, keep running in the doors, running into other memories. We would have been we could have caught up on all this stuff with it just being a montage of him running through doors.
Yeah, you could have done that cheaply and quickly.
Yes. I mean, that could have been 3-5 minutes max of zipping through it. So, but anyway. Yeah, sorry, Elizabeth. It was close, and it started off in the direction I thought that was where we're going, but it ended up not.
More of a Hank's origin story than a John's fill in these gaps in your earlier episode story.
I know.
Elizabeth goes on to say, this episode was really dark. Didn't expect that of Disney. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was dark, but social commentary. Let's park here for just a second. I think there is a drastic difference when you're talking about social issues or political issues, whichever bucket you want to put them in, as opposed to real life on the nose trauma. Would you agree?
Yes, because everyone has their own different opinion about, politics and that perspective. But when it comes to trauma, you're not really all over the place with it. It's kind of a one direction thing, and that no child should have to be able to go through that.
No, not at all. Elizabeth says, another QR code Moon Knight comic. Are we supposed to read up on backstory details on our own? John, I know you had caught the QR code.
No, actually, I did not. I caught it on my re-review when I go back and look for Easter eggs that I missed, and I did not see that at all. So good catch, Elizabeth.
Awesome. Good eyeballs. And I'm skeptical of QR codes when they're on the TV. I don't know if people have heard about, there was one that was floating around. It wasn't on TV, but it was on the internet, and it'll lead you into some terrible stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, something that's going to be on
Disney
a
Plus.
Disney Plus episode, I would be okay to do. I mean, I would have. I didn't even see it until you and I sat down and I started doing my review.
Until you sit down with the kids and mom is beating her son on
Yeah.
a Disney Plus show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's not trust
Hey, I
everything
mean,
that comes out of there.
on a Midnight Sun show.
Oh man. Midnight Suns video game. Remind me to tell you about that after we're done.
Okay.
All right. So are we supposed to read up on backstory details on our own? I think that here's my personal take. I think whether these comics are free or paid, I think they use these shows to try to get exposure for the comics, for the written material. Would you
Yes.
agree with that, John, or no?
Absolutely. That's the reason why a lot of the comic books, foreshadows a lot of the things that happen in the MCU. I mean, they in fact they've had spin-off comic books of stuff from the MCU, but primarily it's exactly what you said. It helps bring new readers in, especially you're like, okay, so you for us. I mean, I have ways of getting comic books outside of that, but for people that don't know who Moon Knight is, have never researched it, and you're just watching the Disney Plus show because it's there, you're getting a free taste of what the comic book's like.
Which is kind of cool, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I might have had a handful of Moon Knight comics. I didn't read them when I was a kid. No way.
I had none.
I would have gravitated in an instant to Thor, Avengers, Wolverine, Fantastic Four, the real Defenders. Don't get me started. But I would have gravitated towards the stuff I really liked. So like Guardians of the Galaxy, Moon Knight, Quasar, and stuff like that. I was like, over here in this pile. You get to go in this box that will never be opened. All right. And lastly, so much for Marvel being escapist fun. Best Elizabeth. Let's talk about that for a minute too. I think Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, I think they've kind of lost their path because they used to be more escapist fun, and now they kind of have turned into everything is the Punisher, everything is dark, everything's gritty, everything's a hidden, backstory where it's like, oh crap, who am I related to? No.
But they need
it's
to have that because where are they going to get more, story from? Everyone starts from it's all connected, man. So at some point in time that it's going to be something that involved somebody else. But I don't know. Maybe this is like part of the. I can't speak for Star Wars, but for Marvel, maybe this is part of the Phase 4 overall feel that this is supposed to be a darker era coming back from the snap, where you think everything would be better because everyone's back, but in reality it's no better, and it's actually in some cases worse. So I would like to see a little bit further on. I mean, considering, think about this, we're running into Multiverse of Madness, and that's supposed to be an insane movie. By the way, did you see the new trailer that came out?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, bonkers. And it's not going to get any better, and it's. I think we're going to get to a pivotal point. I'd like to see when we get to Ant-Man and we're introduced to Kang. If Kang has been defeated, then will things go back to a little bit more of a happier note?
I do think that at some point, though, we do have to get back to escapism because box office, like people can keep blaming it on all these different things, but box office just seems to be down, until you get to those escapist type movies like Spider-Man, No Way Home. I mean, so many people wanted to see that because it was different. It wasn't so, yes, it had some bleakness in it, but there was a lot of fun in that movie and stuff. And I think executives, when it comes to money, they'll start paying attention.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more message, and this one comes to us from Greg. This was a dark episode that left me silent once the episode finished. Are there characters with even darker backstories than this? We'll stop there for a second. John, You want to take that?
Oh no, I mean there's an endless supply of them throughout the comic book. I mean, I didn't know this much about
Mark Spector.
Mark Spector or Moon Knight in general, but I mean, just if you go down like the X-Men line itself, like it's ridiculous the amount of trauma, because I mean they're persecuted, even at like a teenager age, by parents, by government, by extremist groups. I mean that's just them. We're not even talking about maybe even you want to factor in the Inhumans or everything that led up or through the Civil War series, and or all the trauma that Scarlet Witch has had to deal with for basically her entire life of everything. I mean, it was so bad for her, she created a whole separate parallel reality where she was supposed to be fine, and then that still crashed and burned because Mephisto. I feel like we should get like we need to get like a nice like a Coke every single time that we say Mephisto, or we need Mephisto points.
Achievement unlock. Weave Mephisto into an episode. Oh, perfect.
But I mean, that's a lot of how comic books are made. There are comic book characters that are made cheerfully, but a lot of it's tragedy.
Greg goes on to say, what are you guys' thoughts about trying to adapt these types of stories? Oh, thank you, Greg, for sending that in. John, any thoughts on, how you feel about them trying to adapt these darker stories?
I whenever they said they were going to do Moon Knight, I was like, I can't wait to see how they're going to do that. I mean, but shoot, let's rewind all the way back to the beginning of Phase 1. They said they were going to do a Thor movie, and I'm like, how are they going to do a Thor movie? How's that going to make any sense in this modern world? And they did it, and we love it. So they're touching on different money makers that they have, and I think that this is a nice one to cover, because it's just showing the spectrum of what the Marvel universe can be. Maybe not necessarily what it should be, but that it's not everything is always a happy ending.
Not at all.
No, and that's realistic.
I would say I'm okay with them adapting these stories. I kind of wish they would have had a different service, like John's idea, where they should have did the darker stuff on Hulu, and then had Disney Plus kind of stay pure if it could have. I think I would have liked that better, but it is what it is. John, any final? Oh, you have some Easter eggs you wanted to go over, don't you?
I do.
Okay, let's get it.
All right. Let's see. Hold on 1 second here. I gotta get rid of that. So now going through this, like I said, I do my Easter egg things. There wasn't a whole heck of a bunch, but there was some things in there. So first things first, the Putnam Medical Facility, that is something straight out of the comic books. Whenever we are discussing the different planes of existence and how to try and make it sense, the hippo, whatever her name is, turns around and says, "You should see the astral place, the astral plane." Woo! It's like all over the place. And we know of the astral plane through the X-Men comics. We know that the ancestral plane in Black Panther, that is more or less the exact same place. So you're getting spoilers into other things that exist. So there, I got the name right here. Tuart's, yeah, we'll say that. Tuart's vessel that we see, we've actually already seen that vessel. It was in the fish tank.
That is a deep cut.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and going along with the fish tank, we see, Marc's brother drawing a fish with a little fin. So, I mean, it's all connected. Of course, the QR code that I didn't even see at all. That completely threw me out. Bushman is named, who is one of Moon Knight's bad guys in original story, which is tied directly to how the death of Lillian's father. So that's straight from the comic book. I mean, and they're getting that all correct. Of course, we know about the brother. Oh, the Tomb Busters poster. Okay, I don't know the people in the Tomb Busters poster, the names in it, but looking at this, it's noted that the names at the bottom of the posters are names of people in the staff and crew. So that's, they're a little call out. But it doesn't just stop there. So when we see Marc Spector drinking and looking at the funeral home, he's standing in front of a Watterson Food and Liquors, and Watterson just so happens to be the producer for, was it the producer? Let me make sure I got that right. Co-executive producer. Sorry, that's what I was looking for, of the show. So, there's some that's in there, definitely.
That's pretty freaking awesome. That's some stuff I would have never got, like, especially like the ship being in the aquarium. What if we would have figured that out at the time? That'd have been one of the best gets of all time.
Well, I mean, I have to point out that we did actually spend quite a bit of time staring at that fish tank, in the first episode. So
True.
Maybe we should, next time we're in any kind of show and they've spent any more than like 2 minutes on something, we should start taking notes of what we're looking at.
Go over every
everything.
beat,
Yeah.
every single screen shot. We should do that. I like it. That's some good Easter egg stuff.
And then there's also the bird. Like they stepped on the bird.
Yes.
Which is a skeleton, but that was the skull for Khonshu.
Yeah, good one. Yes, that was a good one too. A really good episode. What are your expectations for the finale?
Well, considering, like I said earlier, that we've now watched an entire series that's had 5 minutes roughly of Moon Knight, I'd hope to see some more Moon Knight in it. But I don't know. I mean, typically think about this, like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, however way you want to call that. You got into this episode and it was building up to the next episode. The next episode, everything was going to be laid out. This one, as far as we know, he's dead. So that means that his God has to bring him back, but someone's got to release his God. And so I don't know. I mean, this might be something that is going to be a whole bunch of far-fetched ideas that will be going on and will come together probably in the last 5 or 10 minutes.
And what I'm wondering is, this is just my gut feeling, writer's gut. How much time has passed in the real world? And I think we'll end up seeing Layla Night. I think she's already going to be.
Well, no, because if the God is still, if Khonshu is still imprisoned, because Khonshu is the only one that's going to be able to release him. Yeah. But you're right, because we're starting to see the purple streaks of people landing in that desert, which means that they're starting to go through and kill people off or whatever. They're giving them their early sentences or whatever they're calling it. But yeah, so it's
and the others could change their mind because he lied to them.
Yeah.
Release him. He picks a different avatar because Mark's dead. Bam. That's why I think it's going to go, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, John?
Nope.
Hey, I appreciate you carving out the time. This is a heavy episode, but I hope we brought some fun to it a little bit. Not so much depression. But
this episode comes with a nice dose of Prozac.
It could. And a chaser.
Yeah.
All right. But that is going to do it for episode 53 of Mouse House Plus. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast already, please do so by heading to tpenetwork.com/subscribe. And next week, get your feedback in by Friday, noon Eastern time. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can call the voicemail line or send us email messages, but you can head to tpenetwork.com/feedback for all that information. For John, I'm Hank. Until the next time, we're signing off.
Later, Gator.
TPE Network. There ain't nothing else like it.